Okay, let's take a look at some of the benefits that you have when you use a professional NAS system. This particular one supports SSDs, which is very interesting because it allows you to use them as a second level cache, okay? So let me explain. Usually you have a bunch of disks, and because disks are generally quite slow, you prefer to have lots of RAM. So ideally, all your write and read requests go through the RAM, and when the RAM is full, basically everything goes to the disks. So having RAM is generally very good. The problem is you can never have enough RAM. Okay? Unfortunately, RAM is not only quite expensive, you only have a limited number of slots. So the amount of RAM is basically limited. Now imagine that you can have a second level cache using SSDs. Okay, so this is my second level. And I hope you already get my point. If I use a second level cache, well, basically when the RAM, which is very fast, is filled up, the slightly slower SSDs will kick in, and when these become full, then the disks are actually utilized. Okay, so basically these first two layers are a way to speed up the access of read and write requests. Okay, some background information. Since Solaris is using a file system which is called ZFS, it utilizes SSDs in two different ways. It has a write cache and a read cache. So these are the two forms of level 2 cache that you have. For example, the read cache here on this side is called L2ARC. Okay, so if you go through a manual or storage website and you see these particular terms, well, it's just a nerdy word to describe that you have a level 2 cache using SSDs, for example. Okay. Furthermore, we have the snapshot capability, which I explained in the video previously, but I would like to point out that you have a snapshot capability not only for the system, but also for the data that is on the system. And it's important to mention that snapshot technology is not really a backup. It is just a table basically referring to the original files. So it's kind of a virtual backup. Now over time, the original files become altered, they change, maybe new files are added. So the snapshot actually over time will increase its size because it needs to keep track of the original files. So over time a snapshot will become basically larger. The Infortrend EonNAS allows you to at some point move the snapshot, and when this happens you would actually create a backup. Okay? Now if you want to do a real backup, this is where deduplication comes into place. Again, this can be timed on the EonNAS, and the way it works is basically we take a bunch of folders which we generated on our EonNAS and they appear basically in the backup storage. Okay? Now at some point in future we may add another folder, for example new data, and we would like to back up this as well. And what happens is basically all these 4 folders go into the backup storage, and in there the deduplication process takes place. So the deduplication will only take into account the changes that have been done. Okay, so it's not on a file level, and this is very important and the big difference when it comes to data deduplication. There's one thing left, and that's data integrity. Data integrity is something that is possible on Solaris if you use a file system called ZFS, which has been designed from ground up with the focus on data security. So let me explain first. It basically takes 2 steps. The step number 1 is we assume we have a media file. Could be any file, of course, but in this case, let's say it's a ProRes file. Now, with the ProRes file, a checksum is created, but the checksum is not saved with the block. It's saved actually to the block's pointer of that file. The next thing that happens is, and this is where things become really interesting, a checksum is created from that checksum, okay? And it's stored again somewhere else in the file system. So this is how it would look like. And this process is basically repeated all over again and again and again until the root level of the file system is reached. So this step is quite good in checking if data corruption has taken place. However, how do I fix that? Well, if you combine these automatic data integrity checks with RAID protection, then you have a detection of faults and a self-healing mechanism of a NAS storage. So that was a brief overview of some of the technologies that the Infortrend EonNAS uses as a professional NAS solution. I didn't have much time to cover things in more detail, but I hope it was interesting, and see you soon.